Hi guys, this is Akash and I'm here to make things simple for you. So welcome to one of the most interesting videos which is based on the ER model. Okay, so what is entity relationship model? That we will see in this video. It is one of the most interesting and forms the foundation of the entire database model. Okay, so let's get started with the ER model. So ER model stands for Entity Relationship Model. It develops a conceptual design for the database. Okay. So it forms the basic concepts of the database on which the tables are formed. The actual database is formed on the basis of ER model. So in ER modeling, the database structure is portrayed as a diagram called an entity relationship diagram. So some problem statement is being given to you and you identify what are the entities and what are the attributes and the relationships, and based on them you draw the diagram. Based on that diagram the actual tables are designed. So that is the use of ER model. What are the components of ER model? These are entity, attribute and relation. Okay. So entity can be of two types, strong entity and weak entity. Attribute can be of different types like key attributes, composite attribute, multi-valued attribute, derived attribute. Similarly, relations can be one to one, one to many, many to one and many to many. Okay. So now what is entity? In this video we will mainly discuss about entity and attributes, and about relationships will be discussed in the second part of this video. So what is entity? An entity may be any object, class, person or place. In the ER diagram, an entity can be represented as rectangles. So using rectangles, we represent entity, which is basically an object, class, person or place. Okay. So like loan is an entity. It is a kind of object. So loan is an entity. Okay. And we form a diamond shape which depicts the relationship. Okay. Like loan has installments. So there is an entity loan and there is another entity installments. Okay. And the relationship is that a loan is having various installments. So the loan has installments. Okay. So a loan has installments, we know that, and this is a strong entity because it is not dependent on anything else, while installment is a weak entity as installment depends on the amount of loan you have taken. So a weak entity is represented by this double rectangle. Then we have the attributes. So the attributes is used to describe the property of an entity. So there are various properties of an entity and that are depicted using attributes. Okay, so ellipse is used to represent an attribute. Like if there is an entity student, so it would be having various attributes which we would see here, like the student would be having some age, he would be having some name and he would be having some student ID. The ID is underlined here, please notice, because it uniquely identifies the student. The ID or the roll number of a student uniquely identifies it. So it is a key attribute. So the key attribute is used to represent the main characteristics of an entity. It represents primary key. So the key attribute is represented by an ellipse and it is underlined. Okay. Then we see what is composite attribute. An attribute that is composed of many other attributes is known as composite attributes. Okay. So the composite attribute is represented by an ellipse and those ellipses are connected with an ellipse. Okay. So it is represented by an ellipse and that ellipse is connected to various other ellipses. Like if you see the example of composite attribute, name can be broken down into first name, middle name and last name. So these are the composite attributes of the attribute name. Then we come to multi-valued attribute. An attribute can have more than one value. These attributes are known as multi-valued attribute. So double oval is used to represent multi-valued attribute, like a person can be having multiple phone numbers. Okay. So in that case we draw the double ellipse or double oval. So that is the phone number, which is multi-valued attribute. So what is derived attribute? An attribute that can be derived from other attribute is known as a derived attribute, and it is represented by a dashed ellipse. Like the entity student is having a date of birth, based on that date of birth his age would be decided. So age is not independent, it is rather dependent on the date of birth of the person. So DOB, which is the date of birth, that is normally represented using an ellipse, while the derived attribute is age. So that is represented by a dashed ellipse. So I hope you got a fair idea about entity and attributes in this, because in the next video we would be discussing about the relations in the ER model. So I hope the foundations of ER model are clear to you. In case you like the video, please do hit the like button. Okay, and please do subscribe the channel in order to get more such useful videos for you. If you want to get the written material or a PDF in order to quickly revise all these concepts, please do join our Telegram channel, link for which is given right there below. In the Telegram channel, we share all these kind of study materials. These are all the written materials for my videos included in the Telegram channel. So please do join it. Okay, and I wish you happy learning and stay tuned.